In the recent patch, they have cooked the lucky rabbit fur, meaning you can no longer get 10% elemental damage by just shooting a bullet. Dealing any elemental damage will not increase the elemental damage by 10% anymore. Instead now, when shooting, and once you crit, as you can see, we have 29.1 elemental damage bonus, and if I shot and critted, it increases by 10%. However, if I just shoot a bullet, it stays the same. And we are wearing Lucky Rabbit fur. So does that mean that you don't use Lucky Rabbit anymore? Actually, you still want to use it. For weapons like Boom Boom, if you tap with the gun like so, then of course you don't want to use Lucky Rabbit. However, if you're shooting like this, as you can see, every almost 6 to 8 to 10 shots, we're always critting, which means we're always gonna have the Lucky Rabbit fur activated. So simply to put it like that, if you spray your guns, keep using Lucky Rabbit fur. Slow firing, high ammo guns will benefit from Lucky Rabbit fur. If you're using a fast firing gun, for example like Silent Nabas's, I don't recommend putting Lucky Rabbit on it. Unless you're spraying the gun like this, but I like to shoot the gun in bursts like this. It won't be as efficient as when you're spraying. And if you're like literally tapping like this, I don't recommend using Lucky Rabbit at all. Now in the description, I'm gonna leave a sheet link, which here you will see the best heights for each weapon for Boom Boom, Starfall Down, Lunar Wool, and Lucky Rabbit Hide. These are the 3 main hides you should be using, depends on the situation. So for example, Starfall Down, on the mask, this is from the gravity event, the hide that you get by looting chests, or you slaughter the flamingo, which you can tame by getting from looting chests from the gravity event. So basically you will get 15% status damage if you wear the Starfall Down, but you have to be airborne in order to utilize that. If you don't jump and shoot while you're airborne, you get literally 0%. It's up to you what you're really using this for. Are you boss farming? Are you killing mobs? Honestly, if you're killing mobs, I would recommend to use Lunar Wool or Lucky Rabbit Hide. The Lucky Rabbit Hide, again, if you are spraying the mobs, then you can use Lucky Rabbit Hide. But if you're tapping, then it's not as recommended. It still works, just not on every gun. Lunar Wool, on the other hand, is a little bit weird, and it also has a mistranslation, which I will get into now. So I'm gonna equip 3 pieces of Treacherous so we can understand what we're dealing here with. And we're gonna equip the mods from each of them. So we have 4 pieces of Treacherous. And this is just to show you guys how it works with the 40% HP cap. And if you take a look at my current HP, we have 3,732, and this is our max HP. So if I took the 3,732 divided by 9,329, we're gonna get this number, which is bad. And if you just minus, as you can see, our HP is actually not at 40%, it is above 40%, which is 41%. So if you have this amount, that means your Lunar Wool will utilize only this amount. As you can see, we have 57 status damage, and we are wearing Lunar Wool right now. So if I unequip this, we are gonna lose 7.5 status damage. Since we are at 41% HP, as you saw, if I do this math, it's not 6 stacks, it's 5, and this doesn't get rounded. 5 stacks would be 7.5 of Lunar Wool. As you can see, for every 10% decrease in HP, status damage is 1.5 up to 10.5. However, it's not 10.5, it's 11, and I'll show you soon. Basically, if your HP had the right order, which would be like this, which if you had this number, that means you would be utilizing 6 stacks of Lunar Wool, which would be 9% status damage. So now I have my preset, which is my Boom Boom, and if I take a look at my HP, we have 5788 and 14471. So if I divided that, current HP with max HP, and you can see that this is the number we get. When you minus it out of 1, you get 6 stacks utilized, which is below 40% HP. 3999, blah blah blah, you get the point. So now to get this number and to fix it, your mods would need to have max HP. You would need to like mess around with your mods. So basically, if a mod that you have is giving you max HP, you would need to take off that mod or swap it out without a HP substat. And this is the amount of HP substats we have on our mod. There you go, there's one on 3.6 on gloves, and on shoes we don't have one. So if I change my shoes mod to, for example, just for example, something that has a HP substat, as you can see this one has HP substat 2.4. Now if I check my HP, 5920, 14799, and now we are on the wrong thing again. So we are not utilizing the full stacks, as you can see, and that would make me lose status damage. I have 138.2, and as you can see, 149.7 with the correct HP ratio. With this mod, no max HP, and Lunar Wool is utilizing 9%. Also, if you're using Rush Hour, you're going to be also gaining extra 4% status damage because Rush Hour 5 stacks will utilize only 20% status damage, while 6 stacks will give you 24%. So you will need to fix your mods accordingly to get the right proper status damage with the Lunar Wool. Now, it does say 10.5%. You actually get 11% maximum status damage with the Lunar Wool. All right, so we're getting 7% status damage from the Lunar Wool. And now let's decrease our HP. You can see that we have 11% now. So that's really how Lunar Wool works. And don't forget that you need to be on full energy bar over here because that will give you 400 HP, which will also help in the HP ratio. So the best ratio is 0.4 or 0.399, whatever number you get. If you don't understand in this video, I explained it in another video over here, a little bit more in depth. So you can go watch this video instead if you're confused. It works in the same way. So now for each weapon type, you will be using either Lunar Wool if you don't jump airborne, or you'll be using Lucky Rabbit if you're going to be spraying. So I explain everything in the sheet here. It's for every single weapon over here. For physical builds, you will want to use Starfall Cowhide. Simply, if you just jump in air, you will be getting 8% weapon damage. And if you meet the stamina conditions, which is staying on 120 stamina or above, you'll get another 8% weapon damage, which is total 16%. If you don't have Starfall Cowhide, then you can use Golden Wool, but Golden Wool is not really recommended for like builds like Scar because you fluctuate between weapon damage and status damage. Everything that is marked red over here, as it says here, it is recommended to use for that specific gun. So for example, for Boom Boom, it's recommended to use Starfall Down and Lunar Wool. But of course, if you're spraying the gun, use the Lucky Rabbit as well. And on the very right side right here, these are the hides for each weapon. You should be using 4 pieces of the hide. So for Boom Boom, you would be using 4 wool type. Now the type of the wool doesn't matter. You could be using golden wool, you could be using a normal wool. As long as you have 4 wool type, you will be getting 2% status damage for every team member in your team. So maximum 6% because it doesn't count when you are in the team. But if you have 3 players in your team, that's 6% extra status damage. And if you click over here, set bonuses, this shows every single hide that can have these bonuses. Some of them are useless, but some of them are kind of useful. The most useful one is 4 pieces of rabbit because that will give you 20% weak spot damage while airborne. So you just jump, spam jump, spacebar, and brother, you're getting 20% weak spot damage. That's so free. Pretty much that's it for the set bonuses. The sheet link again will be in the description. So yeah, for some guns, it will be different. For example, for Jaws, if you're going to be using 4 rabbit type hides, that means you will have to not use Fateful Strike to gain 20% weak spot damage. But if you are using Fateful Strike, then just stick to 4 wool type, since you cannot really do weak spot damage, you know, so that you will get status damage instead, which is way less efficient. This is the optimal setup. There's nothing better you can put. This is already set up for you guys the most optimal way. And as you can see here, it says put it on helmet, mask, gloves, and shoes. So for example, you put it on the mask if you are using the Lunar Wool. If you're not using the Lunar Wool, then you don't want to put this on the mask, the high type. You want to put it either on your pants or the top piece, because if you're going to be using Lucky Rabbit, for example, of course you cannot put it on the mask, the wool type. Same goes for the rabbit as well. If you're using 4 pieces of rabbit hide and you're using Lucky Rabbit on the mask, then just put it on the mask instead of the top piece, so you can utilize more stamina for your, you know, pants and top pieces. Anyways, a quick example in the game. So I'm using my Scar build, right? And as you can see, we have 60% weak spot damage. And when I jump and open my inventory quick, we have 20% extra because I opened the inventory while airborne. So the stat doesn't show up here anywhere, but you will see this soaring leap, weak spot damage, 20% while in midair. So my armor setup is basically like this: rabbit fur on the helm. On the mask, I have Starfall Cowhide. On the top piece, I have Rabbit Fur. Again, doesn't matter if it's purple or green. On the pants, I have Wasteland Wolfskin. Gloves, of course, you want to put Rabbit Fur, since they are useless, it doesn't provide any damage. And Rabbit Fur on the shoes. There you go. And now, of course, if you're using weapons like the G17 Hazardous Object, since you're going to be perma-jumping with it and Salos with the double jump, you can basically just put the Starfall down while airborne status damage 50% on the mask. So that way you'll just deal the maximum amount of damage. Since Lucky Rabbit got changed, you would have to shoot the gun to crit, because if you just throw the gun, you're not going to be able to crit with the elemental damage like that. That's what you want to change this to. If you sometimes miss and throw the weapon when you're already landing on the ground, then of course you can then instead replace Starfall down with Lunar Wool too. like this one, but I don't really recommend it. You have more than enough time to time your throws. If you want most damage, just use this one. Ladies and gents, that's it for this video. Just wanted to make a quick update for you guys out there because a lot of people are asking what to do with the lucky rabbit fur, because it's nerfed, because it's changed. Let me know what you guys want to see next for Once Human videos, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.